Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I am your host, Alison Price, and I'm here again with my co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hi, Alison. It's great to be here again.
Thank you so much for being here. Now, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the planet Venus through the houses. We're going to look at Venus through each of the 12 houses in an astrology chart, basically from a beginner's point of view. So if you know where your Venus placement is, you can certainly follow along, and we're going to explore all the houses in turn.
Yes, and this is, again, one of those where it's important to know the time of your birth, because that is how you know what all of the house placements are.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what time you were born, that's you need to know for this. Yeah.
For houses, absolutely.
Yeah.
So hopefully most people who are listening do know that time they were born and have a chart. Yeah. And basically we're going to be looking at which house is your Venus in and how would it express itself naturally. Yeah. I don't really want to go into house topics at the moment, but basically we're going to be looking at houses from the 1 to 12.
Yeah.
But just to start off, could we just talk about a few things that Venus represents in the chart?
Absolutely. So Venus is the goddess of love. So it's about relationships. It's about your attractiveness if you're a woman or a man. And it's about what kind of women you're attracted to if you're attracted to women. And it's about money as well. What you find valuable and
what
how
you value. Yeah.
What you value and how you express that. So, it could be clothes, or it could be lovely furnishings, or
your stuff.
Your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also, let's say we're using Placidus houses. Not that really will matter for. You could have Venus in whatever house you want, but for our charts, when we're analyzing them, we're analyzing them.
We're solidly Placidus house gals.
Hashtag Placidus. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this is it. So Venus is representing your love and your money, and all combinations of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Arwynne, I see you have a book with you. Could you give us, our listeners, a bit of a clue to which book this is now?
Yes, I'm going to be reading some excerpts here from The 12 Houses by Howard Sasportas. And this is, again, one of the OG astrologers from way back. This was published in 1985 with a foreword by Liz Green, who's another of the OGs. And the subtitle of this book is Understanding the Importance of the Houses in Your Astrological Birth Chart. So it is one of those super basic books, but it's also an incredibly well-written book. And he's one of the sort of pillars of psychological astrology, which is what is so interesting about when we talk about the personal planets. This is really...
Yeah. So we will put a link to this book below the podcast, and also in the blog post there will be a link going through this. And also, just as a reminder, that this is one of the books that I recommend when you're beginning to learn astrology. It's, I think, the fourth one that you need to get. And it's this one, The Houses in what's it called? The 12 Houses by Supporters. Absolutely. Okay, lovely. Yeah. All right. So this book considers all the planets, but today we're focusing just on Venus.
Right.
So we're going to be talking about Venus in the first house. That will be our first look into this.
Yeah. And what he says when he introduces these houses is that it's important to look at where Venus is, but also where Libra and Taurus are. So the cusps that you have in your chart that have Taurus and Taurus and Libra on them, because those are the Venus signs. So those are all kind of important to look at. So if you, for example, have Venus on in your second house, you also would be kind of looking at this if you have Taurus on the second house cusp, or if you have Libra on the second house cusp, etc. So that's something to consider if you know a little bit more about astrology. And if not, let's just look at the houses and leave it at that. But just important to sort of bring that in.
So we're only concerned with Taurus and Libra house cusps.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then where Venus is exactly.
Okay, so so that's great. Okay. Yeah. All right, lovely.
Yeah, so Venus in the first house. And it says, if we understand the first house to describe the way that we look, the way we realize our special and unique identity, then Venus here in the first house suggests that life should be met with open arms. You have a natural urge to relate to others with sensitivity, refinement, and goodwill. And you'll find yourself being harmonious and accommodating, but also there is a danger that you will attempt to make all people like you and that you will maybe lose yourself in the process. So Venus in the first house suggests that we should love and respect ourselves as well as others. And a feeling of self-worth and self-esteem is important to being able to love others and to see other people clearly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a great position for people who are good looking, handsome, beautiful, call it what you will. And a lot of it has to do with the symmetry that we find is naturally beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It even says here Venus in the first often exhibits physical beauty to a certain something that attracts others. So it might not even be a tangible, you might not even know why you find that person attractive, but there's something about them.
They're the classic beauties of the world that they've, and it's because of symmetry, which is kind of interesting, really.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And you can also find the same thing with either Taurus or Venus, Libra on the ascendant. So if you have Libra rising or Taurus rising,
fantastic. So this Venus in the first house is a good position, I think, as well.
Very much so. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Venus in the second house. Let's just cut to the chase. Right in the first sentence,
Yes.
He says it has a love of money.
The love of money.
Not just for the security it brings, but also because it allows them to purchase all the things they find beautiful and worthwhile.
Yes.
And a sense of well-being is attained by surrounding themselves with that which they consider stylish and tasteful. They have an eye for beauty in the material world, and they shun anything they consider to be ugly or inharmonious.
This is it. I really do think this is a position of people who buy beautiful things.
Yeah.
Not just utilitarian toasters. They want the stylish toaster.
Yeah. And it's not even just the most expensive.
No.
But these can be people who, even if they don't have a lot of money, you go to their apartment or their house and you're like, oh, it's just so nice. It's so lovely. It's just,
we've got an eye for it.
Yeah. And everything is just in its place and not cluttered necessarily. Just everything's just lovely and symmetrical and kind of comfortable.
It's an inherent ability to see it.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's Venus in the second house, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Venus in the third house has the ability to communicate in an easy, fluent, and non-threatening manner, as long as, and this is, all of these things are if Venus is not encumbered afflicted by a bad placement or
I've got this one.
Or by bad aspects. So if you have Venus opposite Uranus, that might make it might undo some of the charming wonderful things that we're saying about these placements here. But Venus in the third house is sensitive to the needs of those around them, although they try to speak only what they think will please others sometimes. So they might not always be as open and honest, because they're just trying to create an atmosphere of pleasantness and only say what they think someone will want to hear. And it may slow down the thought process, as it says, because Venus is not necessarily about being like super quick-witted, like the Gemini rules the third house in traditional thought. But so it's not necessarily the most comfortable placement for it, but it can be a lovely place. And it also does create a fondness for neighbors and for siblings and for friends. So it's a lovely place to have it, to just be a charming host and have a lot of friends.
Well, yeah, I actually have this placement. And
nice.
I have a sister. And when I started learning astrology, I thought, Venus in the third house. It represents your siblings. I thought, it's my sister. And my sister's beautiful. It just is a delicate petal, I call her. She's a delicate petal. And so
nice.
Try to bring elegance and charm to the small things, actually.
Yeah.
Like even this evening, this sort of thing.
Well, every time I come to your place, it is absolutely lovely. We've got a lovely fire on the TV, little wine, little snacks.
And I do like people coming here at dusk, because then you can't see the dust on the baseboards, but that's another thing.
Yeah.
But I do try to be welcoming, particularly when I lived in a house and you've got neighbours next door, to be nice to the neighbours. But not overly friendly whatsoever, but certainly that, But when I started learning astrology and I saw I got Venus in the third house, I thought, that represents my sister. And it does.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say about it, So, that's good
awesome.
position.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
So Venus in the fourth indicates qualities deeply embedded within the person. This Venus placement basically values and desires peace and harmony in their surroundings. They can't easily live in an atmosphere of strife. So tension and discord are very harmful to them. And in the end, they will do everything they can to reconcile and and smooth over problems, especially in the household. So they are often found making their home or their garden lovely and comfortable. And this also suggests a very comfortable situation, according to this, in their later life, because that is something that the fourth house indicates.
Yeah. I do think this is a position where people have got, even if they have small means, they've got little crystals and everything's elegantly positioned in the home.
Yeah.
Whereas you can go into some homes and there's clutter everywhere and laundry and dishes, and you'd never see that when Venus is in the fourth house.
Yeah.
They really make the best stylish decisions, which is nice,
without a lot of money.
Yes, exactly. So it's all brought together well. There's an eye for beauty with this Venus. Yeah. Yeah.
And since the fourth house does also rule as this book describes it, the hidden parent, which is often the father, because this, the mother is often in the 10th house, but it could flip either way depending on which parent was more dominant in your family. But it often can create a projection where that parent is considered idealized and beautiful. And so you can have this sort of, daddy's girl kind of thing, or someone who really idealizes the secondary parent.
Yeah. It's Venus is usually good news, it really is. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
All right.
So Venus in the 5th house, there's a natural urge to express the self in a creative and artistic fashion. So this is the natural house of Leo. So this is a person who needs a creative outlet of some kind. Their personal fulfillment and well-being comes from being able to express themselves in a lovely and beautiful way, whether that's the way they dress or the way they throw a party or acting. There's a lot of actors and actresses with this placement, and musicians as well. And if someone who this book says, if they have Venus in the 5th, they might say, if it's worth doing with style.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Venus is the planet of style. It's how you present yourself. It's beauty to the eye.
Yeah.
And it's not always about substance, but it's about presenting things well.
Right. And the 5th house is about love. It's not necessarily about partnerships. So this person could also, be in love with just being in love, not necessarily devoted, not necessarily, a partner kind of person, but just a very romantic and flirtatious and
a lot of dating.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Venus in the 6th house, and this is the house of the natural house of Virgo. So these are things that are associated with work and service, and the functions of the body and health, and the small pets as well. So people who will enjoy, as it says here, vacuuming the sitting room. They tend to sometimes fall in love with their coworkers. They can derive satisfaction from the daily rituals of mundane life. And taking care of pets and
homemaking
and the home.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the pets, yes.
And being devoted and caring for those in their family or in their home.
Yes.
They can also be really, really great at, fitness-oriented careers. So this is also the house of the career, or not the career, but the job sort of thing, the daily thing that you do as a job. So they can be involved with health and beauty and fitness. And it's so funny. I'm thinking of those people who work at the makeup counters where they wear their lab coat, and so they're beauty technician, right?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Or designers who will design a kitchen or a bathroom, something that's very utilitarian, but lovely and
beautiful.
IKEA.
IKEA, exactly. Yeah. It's a great placement, I think. As I say, Venus is a good planet to have, no matter where it is, really.
Oh, for sure.
And in your 6th house, you're probably going to, as you say, love your co-workers. So
yeah, exactly. Or if your job is stressful, this could actually, be a harsh placement for you, because that will really affect you more than maybe somebody else who could just be like, it's just my job. If your job is stressful, or people at work are mean to you, or your job is just like in this awful cubicle farm with harsh lighting and fake plants or no plants at all.
Horrors.
Horrors. Yeah, you could just find that a lot more stressful than somebody else might.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah. So Venus in the 7th house, the image of the beloved is important to you. So partnerships in general are very important to you. You may only feel alive or happy or satisfied or complete if you're involved in a relationship, if you have Venus in the 7th house. They most easily see beauty and value when it's reflected back at them from somebody else. So you might not necessarily be in a relationship, but you feel the most beautiful and complete and fulfilled when you are in a relationship.
When you
can
are,
see
yes.
your qualities reflected back at you from somebody else. And this could also be friends. This could also be, business partners, but more likely it's a romantic partnership.
Yeah, this is a great placement for Venus. It's loving your partner and warts and all,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good position.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Good position. And also this is someone who's, it's a natural placement. So it's going to be really strongly expressed. Someone who has Venus in the 7th house, you're really going to see, they're going to seem Venusian, more so than some other places.
The average Joe, yes. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So Venus in the 8th house, they are intense. They really care about deep relationships. It also favors business partnerships and accruing money. So this is a great placement for money, but it's also sort of an intense placement. And it can be a very seductive placement because this is the natural house of Scorpio. They respond to others in an instinctive way. So this is maybe somebody who, will bring you into their family and entrust you with,
You'll get embroiled, I think.
Embroiled,
with this one.
yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. This is a very, it's like a sinkhole of a,
It is. It's not an easy placement because I think too that with Venus here that you can be enticed into debt because the credit card companies think you're fabulous. Let me give you 10,000, and you think, oh, I'll take it,
Right.
and there's the problem.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm really glad I don't have this.
No, we don't. I don't have it. You don't have it. We're safe there. But it can be in love with.
Yeah, the trappings.
Yes.
More ways than one.
All right, let's move on. So what's about Venus then in the 9th house?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because it's not a super, it's not a natural placement for Venus. It says here that for many of us, sitting down to contemplate the meaning and purpose of life could result in a headache. But rather than just struggling endlessly with religious and philosophical issues, people with Venus in the 9th house usually derive great happiness, peace, and well-being from their belief systems. So this is the house of spirituality, of law, of higher learning, and of adventure and travel. It's the natural house of Sagittarius. So people who have this placement could be more spiritually inclined than others, or they could, be super philosophical or intellectual in nature and sort of their head in the clouds in a way. And those things could be more important than their actual partnership. There's a love of travel and adventure sometimes, and the promise of pleasurable experiences that could be had on distant shores. So this is an interesting, they appreciate and are fascinated by diversity and different customs and different cultures. And they may fall in love with another country or with somebody from another culture where they can sort of embrace
easily
a whole new, way of living through their partner.
And I think even on a lower key that this position can be a love of foreign, even food, where you think, oh, I've got to try this, I've got to try that. And I had a friend whose husband had this position, and every night she had to cook a different meal. She could not cook the same meal twice. And I thought, how the hell do you do this? Because I do, if it's Friday, it's fish. If it's Thursday, it's chicken. I mean, I'm not, but she had to, he wouldn't eat it unless she had created this something entirely different.
Yeah.
That he would say, oh, let me try this, whatever it was.
Right.
And I'm thinking 10 years in and you're still doing this. I mean, come on.
Wow.
But she had her methods, but
well, that sounds like
she couldn't put the same meal. Yeah, she couldn't put the same meal in front of him twice. He wouldn't have it. So
fascinating.
I know it was a lot of work, but she got to the point where she'd just buy stuff and put it in a dish and say, "Okay, I made this," and
yeah.
And I'm thinking, no way I would do that. But that's what they want. Yeah. They love variety.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So Venus in the 10th house. And this is the house of career, of your public life, of your, fame and fortune kind of thing.
Yes.
And how you wish to appear to others. So Venus in the 10th house does not like to go out of the house looking disheveled.
No.
They want to be seen as graceful, as beautiful, as stylish. They seek professions where they have the opportunity to look beautiful or to exhibit an artistic eye. So the entertainment business, diplomacy, fashion, and of course, acting and anything where
Anderson Cooper has this, and he just easy on the eye, public domain, this and that, all just delightful. Yeah.
Interesting. And interesting that you would say Anderson Cooper, because it says here in the very next paragraph that Venus in the 10th house suggests a warm, close tie with the mother, which, hello. Yeah.
Very Vanderbilt, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also Venus can be projected onto the mother, and she can be experienced as someone that has a monopoly on style, power, and sexual flair, and you might feel actually sort of awkward and in your shadow of your mother if you have this placement.
That's right. But I do think Venus in the 10th house is a good position for growing a business. It will be well favored. It will be well considered. People will look on it with grace.
Yeah.
No matter how scammy it might be.
Right.
But you can put it forward well if you've got Venus in the 10th house.
Interesting. Yeah. And if you think about those companies out there that are thought of as beautiful and graceful, like Apple and, whatnot, it might be interesting to sort of delve into what
yes, of course.
Houses their Venus in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. So Venus in the 11th house, and this is where I have Venus.
Do you?
I do, yeah. So this person approaches life by encouraging and developing a natural inclination to unite and cooperate with others in friendships and group situations. They have the capacity to bring positive influence to any group, and they desire to receive the same in return, although this obviously depends on the aspects that Venus makes. So they have a fondness for social life and for cultural outings. They learn and grow best through their social connections. And people with Venus in the 11th house only feel beautiful if they're seen and accepted as beautiful by others, by a group or a crowd of the right people or people who they respect their opinions. So, there may be an eye towards personal advancement through groups and through friends, and an interest in groups and organizations that promote the betterment of others in a social sense. So, yeah.
And here we are on the podcast. Eh?
Yeah, they have high standards for friendship and for group involvement, and they can be disappointed if others don't live up to their ideals or social niceties or lofty sort of desire for social engagement.
That's great because, honestly, since I've known you in a social setting, well, in any setting, you're just delightful to have around. You know what? No one's thinking, oh, my God, it's her. They're thinking, oh, yes, come on in. It's Arwynne. Come on in, pull up a chair,
That's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said, honestly. There we go. It's true. That is, I don't know that that's true, but that is one of the, it's true that I absolutely aspire to that.
Absolutely. To be, and here we are in our small group setting or whatever, but it's this is where you do shine, isn't it? And where you bring your grace and style to it. Yeah. And
it's funny because there's always not a dark side, but there's always a flip side to this. And this is funny because someone once told me, someone who I was, arguing with, they said, you just want everyone to like you. And I thought, well, what's wrong with that?
Well, that speaks Venus.
Right? Yeah. Like there's this thing of would you rather win or be liked? Win what? I want everyone to like me. Of course I want. Why wouldn't they like me?
Right. So that has to be.
But there
Venus
you go. That's
in
Venus in the 11th for sure.
Yes, wherever you go, and even in other group meetings where we go, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're definitely living up to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting for sure. Absolutely. All right, Venus in the 12th house. So we are at the final house, and this is the traditional house of Pisces. So the 12th house is the house of, traditionally, it's the house of sort of letting go, of transcending or submerging, abandoning the self into something numinous, unbounded, and divine. It's been called the house of self-undoing, but it's also the house of transcendence and of institutions, but also of in a good way and a bad way. So this can be institutions like library, colleges, hospitals, but also insane asylums and prisons. So it's not necessarily a fun house, so to speak. Venus in the 12th house, it says thirsts for an undefinable and immeasurable kind of beauty, something that offers total fulfillment and perhaps a remembrance of a blissful, long ago, unattainable past. So this might be sort of an unattainable yearning for like the perfect love or the perfect relationship or the perfect kind of beauty. This could be someone who, becomes addicted to plastic surgery or, or is constantly seeking a perfect relationship. So to the point where they will, never be satisfied with the relationship they're in and will constantly be falling in love with somebody else and never be able to be faithful. Or will attract people who are unable to be faithful or who are unavailable. So they may be attracted to people who are married or
otherwise engaged,
imprisoned, or incapable of returning their affection, and they'll just be pining for this unattainable
state.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of interesting, and it's private love, isn't it? Who they don't even know I exist, but I'm in love with them, sort of thing. So it's a tricky placement, that 12th house.
Yeah, totally.
But it can also be a love spirituality as well, and that the higher order and so on.
Yeah.
Tricky one.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, any planet in the 12th house is not going to be dominant in the chart anyway, so it'll be a quiet thing going on when you close behind closed doors. And it can be offset
by other things. It can be offset if you have it in something that's more active, like Sagittarius or Aries or Leo or something. It will definitely ameliorate those sort of darker undertones.
Yeah, but any planet in the 12th house is not going to be prominent in the chart anyway. So if you've got Venus there, then maybe you've got these unrequited loves.
Yeah, unrequited loves. Love triangles. It's just something to know, something to look out for sure.
Yes.
I wouldn't say, oh my God, I'm doomed. But
no.
Don't
but if you happen to be dating someone with Venus in the 12th house, you may never live up to their ideal.
Yeah.
They're looking for an angel, and you're just Mrs. Mop,
No, yeah.
No, it's great. This is the difference with the houses, that some are more outgoing and supportive, and others are more subtle and quiet.
It's true. Yeah.
Great.
Oh.
Okay, well, Arwynne, this has been great. We've been talking about Venus through the houses. We've got some other information on the podcast about Venus and the signs, and we're really encouraging people to look into where their placement is to get a bit of an insight into their personality.
Yeah.
And if you have found value in this podcast episode, please do share it with someone who may be interested.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, if you've got any further questions about Venus in the houses or anything else regarding astrology, please feel free to email us at starzology@gmail.com, and we will address your questions in a later episode.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here again, Arwynne. It's been lovely having you.
Thank you for having me, Alison.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.